Building upon the previous discussion of commercial property management and its diverse responsibilities, it is essential to now explore a growing segment of Arizona's real estate landscape: short-term rentals, STRs. With the popularity of platforms such as Airbnb, VRBO, and similar hosting services, understanding the licensing exemptions, disclosure obligations, and operational limitations related to these rentals has become crucial for both property managers and real estate licensees. The Arizona real estate industry has seen a significant increase in short-term rental activity, especially in cities like Scottsdale, Sedona, Flagstaff, and Phoenix. However, it is important to note that not all individuals managing short-term rentals are required to hold an Arizona real estate license, depending on the nature of their activities and compensation structure. Under ARS Section 322121, Arizona law outlines specific exemptions from licensure for individuals or entities engaged in certain real estate-related activities. One of these exemptions applies to property owners or their employees who manage or lease their own property, including short-term vacation rentals. This means that if an individual owns a home in Sedona and rents it for less than 30 days at a time through Airbnb, they are not required to have a real estate license, provided they do not manage or advertise properties owned by others for compensation. However, if that same person begins managing additional homes owned by others for a fee or commission, they would need to hold a real estate broker's license under ARS Section 32-2122, as their activity now constitutes representation for others in exchange for compensation. The Arizona Department of Real Estate, ARE, has consistently clarified that short-term rental management becomes a licensable activity when it includes marketing, negotiating rental terms, collecting rent for others, or acting in any way as an intermediary in real estate transactions. Therefore, a property management company operating in Scottsdale that manages multiple Airbnb homes on behalf of different owners must be licensed and maintain compliance with all trust account and record-keeping requirements under ARS Section 32-2174 and 32-2151.01. It is also important to understand the local regulatory framework governing short-term rentals. While the state broadly permits STRs, local jurisdictions retain authority to regulate them for public health, safety, and neighborhood integrity under ARS Section 9-500.39. For instance, cities like Scottsdale and Sedona have adopted ordinances requiring STR owners to obtain local permits, designate a local emergency contact, and adhere to occupancy limits and noise ordinances. Failure to comply with municipal codes can result in fines or suspension of short-term rental privileges, even though state law limits cities from banning STRs outright. Consider an example. An investor owns 3 short-term rental properties in Flagstaff and self-manages them using online booking platforms. Because the investor owns the homes, no real estate license is required. However, if the investor begins managing a 4th property owned by a friend and receives a percentage of each booking as compensation, they have crossed into licensed activity and must comply with ARS Section 322122A and Commissioner's Rule R42811003A, which requires broker supervision for all licensed real estate activity. Another layer of compliance involves sales and transient lodging taxes. Under ARS Section 42-5076, STR hosts are responsible for collecting and remitting state and local transient occupancy taxes, often facilitated automatically through booking platforms like Airbnb. Failure to remit these taxes can result in penalties and is considered a violation of state tax law, even if no real estate license is required. Short-term rental management also intersects with fair housing laws under both federal and state law. Even though STRs are not typically governed by the Arizona Residential Landlord and Tenant Act, ARS. Section 33-1301 ATCQ. Property owners must still comply with ARS. Section 41 Article 7 and the Fair Housing Act. 42 U.S.C. Section 3601. By ensuring that rental listings do not discriminate on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, familial status, or disability. ACCR 4-28-4025E. For example, an owner advertising a short-term rental on VRBO who states no children allowed could face liability for discriminatory advertising. Case law further underscores the importance of understanding licensing boundaries and local regulation. In Mausa versus Saba, 222 Arizona, 581 Arizona. Court of Appeals, case number 2009. Arizona Revised Statutes, Section 32-2171. The court affirmed that individuals managing rental properties for others in exchange for compensation are engaging in licensed real estate activity under Arizona law. Similarly, in City of Scottsdale versus Airbnb Inc. 2021, the court upheld the city's authority to impose safety and tax regulations on STR operators, reinforcing the balance between state-level permissiveness and local control. STR, short-term rentals. Review summary. Short-term rentals are a unique area of Arizona real estate where licensure requirements depend heavily on the nature of the activity and compensation involved. Property owners managing their own rentals are exempt from licensing under Arizona Revised Statutes, Section 32-2121-. Arizona Revised Statutes, Section 32-2122. But those managing rentals for others must hold an active broker's license. Local regulations under ARS Section 9-500.39 and city ordinances further impose safety, tax, and operational requirements. Licensees involved in STR management must exercise care to comply with both ADRE and municipal rules, ensuring that all advertising, accounting, and disclosure practices align with Arizona law. Discussion prompts. Why are short-term rental owners typically exempt from holding a real estate license? Answer. Because they are managing their own property rather than representing others for compensation, which falls under the exemption in ARS. Section 32-2121. What triggers the need for a real estate license when managing short-term rentals? Answer. Receiving compensation or acting on behalf of another owner in marketing, leasing, or collecting rents triggers the requirement for licensure under ARS. Section 32-2122. Why must STR managers stay informed of local regulations even if they hold a state license? Answer. Local ordinances authorized under ARS. Section 9-500.39 impose operational, safety, and permitting requirements that supplement state law and can affect the legality of STR operations. Closing remarks. The growth of short-term rentals in Arizona offers opportunities for property owners and investors, but also demands a clear understanding of the legal boundaries between exempt and licensed activities. Real estate professionals must remain diligent in distinguishing between ownership-based management and compensated third-party management, ensuring compliance with ADRE, tax, and municipal regulations. By adhering to these standards, licensees uphold the integrity of the real estate profession while supporting Arizona's thriving tourism and housing markets.